Hi, my name's Fran Mayer, and welcome to another Napa Institute interview. Our guest today is Cristofer Pereyra, who is the CEO of the Tepeyac leadership organization based in Los Angeles, I think. Chris, it's delightful to have you with us. Thanks for being available.
Thank you, Fran. The organization is actually based in Phoenix, and we have a lot of activity in Los Angeles. We definitely have a good footprint in the Southwest.
Well, you know, that leads me to, I was going to save this for later, but you have an incredibly interesting background, because I noticed that you started as a news reporter for Univision. You have an entrepreneurial background in real estate and insurance, but then you took this 90-degree turn into religious ministry. You were head of the Hispanic ministry for the Diocese of Phoenix, which of course really ought to be an archdiocese. It's one of the largest in the country, with a very large Latino population. And now you're organized and running Tepeyac. What led you in such a change of direction?
Well, certainly God, because it was not in my plans, but I little by little became a little closer to my faith and to the diocese, the church itself. And one day, Bishop Olmsted called me and offered me a position as the director of the Hispanic Mission Office for the Diocese of Phoenix. I had never thought of working for the church. I was doing well in my business, but I told my wife that night, I was just offered the job I never knew I always wanted. So yeah. I took it.
Oh, that's wonderful. I noticed in your bio, the brief bio that you have on the web, that you list being a Catholic, a husband, a father, and only much later a professional. So it's the right priority.
I hope so.
Yeah. Well, I think God's blessed your work precisely for that reason. I want to step back from the personal for a moment, though, and talk about a couple of strategic issues. You know, aside from the evangelical churches, which when you lump them all together are basically the largest religious group in the country, Catholics have always ranked very high. I mean, I think they're the second largest, nominal Catholics are the second largest group in the United States. And we have an absolutely disproportionate percentage of Catholics, you know, at the military academies, in the military, the Marines in particular, in the judiciary, in elected officials. Are you satisfied with the kind of impact that their Catholicism has made on American culture? And if so, or if not, why?
Certainly not, Fran. Certainly we're not satisfied with their impact. And I actually believe that the Catholic presence in secular leadership is much higher than we think. But we have Catholics who don't practice the faith. We have the once a year Christmas or Easter mass Catholics, and they are already occupying these, tremendous seats that have so much influence in society, and they could be doing so much good for society, for the faith, for advancing the kingdom, if they only understood their faith, if they only practiced it. So that is the low-hanging fruit, certainly, that we can go for, because these Catholics are already there. But then there are all of these other Catholics who love their faith. They're so passionate about it. They're professionals. They have a professional life, but they check in and check out, and still have not made the connection and seen what a tremendous opportunity there is to advance the mission of the church through their own professional lives.
Yeah, there's a huge pool of potential influence among Catholics who are not even awake to the kind of theoretical cultural power that they have, which is one of the reasons why I think your organization is so attractive. And we'll talk about the work in a moment. But one thing that's always fascinated me over the last decade, Chris, is that the church puts a lot of emphasis on the importance of Latino immigration to the United States, looking upon that as an opportunity for growth of the church. The stats don't necessarily support that. I mean, a lot of Latinos seem to come to the U.S. and either end up not believing at all, not practicing, or ending up in evangelical churches. So the actual number of Catholics has declined. I mean, is there something in the American cultural environment that works against what we're trying to accomplish?
Sure, I can probably attest to much of what you're saying, as myself being an immigrant first generation immigrant in the United States. I'm originally from Peru, and I have seen this happens, and this typically would happen in the second or third generation Latino families. The first generation will stay Catholic. Even if culturally Catholic, even if it's only an identity and they're not really practicing the faith, though in most instances, I believe they are practicing their faith sincerely. But the second and third generation, for some reason, we lost them. And I think there are many, many factors to it. The culture, certainly, pop culture, Hollywood, the secular culture is definitely not on our side. Sometimes it seems as if the culture itself was designed to attack the family, to attack the faith. And there are certainly challenges with college life. I've seen these children, grown, young adults, children of first generation Latino families who go to college, and it is at college where they lose the faith. So it's the college system, unfortunately, that also has, through the years, adopted so many different policies that have just made it very difficult for young adult Catholics to stay faithful. So it's definitely a very complex scenario, but this is where we're trying to make a dent, because many of the people that we serve through our program are young adults, Catholic professionals already out of college, but in the early to mid stages of their career. So maybe they started with a good Catholic foundation at home. And our programs is not just for Latinos, by the way, but we're in the Southwest, and we
Sure.
have attempted to serve our demographic. So we have been very successful at serving the Latino community as well. And these young adult Catholics, now professionals, grew in a Catholic family, went to college, and then just became busy and occupied with their career and sort of neglected their faith. If we are successful at inviting them to consider participating in our program, we're going to show them what a wealth of wisdom there was in the faith that they left behind, that they nominally connected with. And we're going to show them how their Catholic faith can be the driving force, the compass in their professional lives, and how they can make their lives better, their community better, by using their Catholic values as the driving force in their professional lives, in their professional careers.
So you have, I noticed that one of your main program, the most effective one, is the Leadership Institute. How do you go about recruiting for the Institute, and if someone's accepted into it, what exactly is the 5-month program consist of?
Sure. So much of the recruitment we do through virtually, online, and not just because of the current pandemic. It's always been the way we do it. We do a lot of ads, but we do a lot of outreach, and we meet with people face to face, and we tell them about the program. And once we unveil the vision, most of the time we're very successful at capturing their attention, because the program brings together professional development and spiritual growth in an integral manner. And it's a very unique concept. We borrowed the template. I'm going to tell you, TLI borrowed the template from the secular world, and we made it Catholic. Several years ago, we discovered that in the United States, there is such a thing as civic leadership development, and it has been around since the 70s. Sort of under the radar, Fran, these organizations, many of them large, there's such a thing as the National Association of Leadership Programs. It has about 200 members, many of them large organizations with large budgets. What have these organizations been doing? They have been pulling together professionals from different fields, all secular, having them go through their programs. Each of them takes on a different flavor, but for the most part, what they do is they form them and then push them into leadership in their communities, into key leadership positions in their communities. Unfortunately, what we also discovered is that most of these programs were forming professionals with the wrong values, with values that in most instances ran counter to Catholic teaching. So their graduates are going on to serve on boards, start new initiatives, or even run for office. So we thought, gosh, this is a good concept. It's just not being oriented right. We can do it better. because we could make it Catholic, draw from the wisdom of our Catholic faith, and form leaders to be servant, virtuous, moral, ethical leaders for civil society.
Mm-hmm.
Bishop Olmsted, the program was born as a diocesan program at the Diocese of Phoenix, then became its own organization, but Bishop Olmsted gave us his blessing, and we got started. And we've seen the early fruit, Fran, and that encouraged us to continue going, and we had a national vision. So here we are now recruiting for our first national cohort for TLI.
Mm-hmm. You know, it's interesting listening to you talk. I mean, the culture seems to be organized around technology, and technology requires technical skills. And a lot of American leadership seems to be focused on those technical skills without giving sufficient thought to what the meaning is to the work. And what was most appealing to me about what you're doing is as you just described, it's this marriage of meaning and skill, developing the skills, but also giving the work meaning. People are hungry for some larger meaning to their work, not just simply an acquisition of more wealth. And specifically during the 5 months, I think it's a 5-month program, Chris. How does one mature through the program, and what's the final? I mean, I have a pretty good sense of what the final result is that you want, but how do you go about producing that?
Sure. Let me tell you what the program consists of. And I think earlier you asked me about the actual content or curriculum of the program. So the program is comprised of 18 weekly sessions. Through 5 months, participants will go through 3-hour sessions once a week. These are in the evening. And what we do at each session is we focus on areas of human activity, areas of human interest. For example, education, healthcare, government, business, news media, immigration, philanthropy, board service. These are the topics for some of the sessions. At every session, we bring participants, we put in front of them 3 experts, really top-notch, seasoned Catholic professionals, experts in their own field, who would present for them. So the format for every session is we start with discussion on an assigned reading that we would have given the participants prior to each session.
Mm-hmm.
These are typically encyclicals. And as you know, the church has written on
Sure.
just about every topic. So we get them thinking about the topic prior to the session. We start with discussion. That's a very rich part of the session. Then we go right into the presentations, 3 back-to-back. These are 20-minute PowerPoint presentations. The sessions are very dynamic, very, very interactive and fast-paced. We close with a Q&A panel where participants ask the experts and interact with them. So through the 18 sessions, what we do is we bring about issues of concern in society, urgent issues to the church and in society as a whole. And we talk about ways in which the laity can step up and meet those needs, fill those gaps, lead in their own communities. So what our 5-month program ends up being is a discernment. Each of the participants begins to enter into a dialogue with God to find out what it is that He is calling them to do next in their professional lives and in their spiritual lives. And there's a very concrete outcome of the program. On graduation night, each of the participants presents in front of God, his or her peers, his or her own individual leadership commitment. And this is one of the things that most beautiful aspects of the program. If you go to our website, you can see at the top a section called leadership that has the entire list of leadership commitments from previous years, but it gives you a good idea of the concrete fruit that's coming out of our program. Board service across the board. I mean, most of the graduates understand from the program, I need to get involved. I need to engage the world. I need to join some boards. For-profit, non-profit, it doesn't really matter. We need more Catholic voices at the tables where decisions are being made. Board service is where leadership happens.
Yeah.
And the graduates understand it. Many of our graduates, as their leadership commitment, they set out to start something new, a new project, a new initiative. And a few of them have felt a call for politics, public office.
Yeah.
And we have 3 or 4 of our graduates currently preparing themselves to run for public office.
Yeah, Chris, one of the things that I think it's important to distinguish Tepeyac from some of the other organizations out there. I mean, your focus on civic leadership seems to be kind of unique, particularly lay civic leadership. I mean, there are other good organizations like the Catholic Leadership Institute or the Leonine Forum or Legatus, for example. That's the big one, right?
Uh-huh.
But they have a very different flavor from what you're doing. And I'm presuming that's pretty intentional on your part. You're very focused.
Yeah, well, we believe, Fran, that our organization has a very grassroots effort. We're really working hard to create a new network of committed Catholic leaders for the secular world.
Yeah.
Many of the groups that you have, a few of the groups that you have mentioned, all of these are wonderful Catholic organizations. They take on the form of a Catholic professional association or guild, where you have a membership aspect. There's formation, and there's a fellowship and networking aspect of it. We're not an association. We're a 5-month experience.
Yes.
You're in, you're out, you're done. But it's a powerful one. And only by the grace of God, we feel humbled to be part of it. We have been able to touch participants in profound ways, Fran, whereas most of the young professionals who have gone through the program describe the experience as a catalyst, as a transformative experience. And they say, I can now talk about my career as before and after going through TLI.
Yeah. Chris, I'm a big fan of Peter Drucker, and Drucker said early in his career that every success has the seeds of failure. But the opposite is also true. Every failure has the seeds of success if you learn from the failure. One of the things that I find most interesting about successful people like yourself and organizations that work is
Thank you.
You make mistakes and you learn from the mistakes and you build on them. In your experience, what are the lessons that you learned from mistakes you have made, or from the wrong focus that you may have had at some point? I find that very interesting, because people who learn from their mistakes are just extremely interesting people, and they get a lot done.
Thank you, Frank. Well, we're a fairly young nonprofit Catholic organization, so I think there are probably a lot of mistakes ahead for me, and a lot of learning, more learning to do. But up until now, I am very grateful to God that the way our program has developed, I have felt His hand and Our Lady's hand at work from the beginning. Whereas we had a vision, but it was really Him who unveiled the business plan as the program continued to develop, and it continues to happen. It was only about midway where we decided, so what it is that we're really trying to accomplish here? What is the concrete outcome that we're seeking? People were asking us, we wanted to form civic leaders, but how would you know you're successful? How would you measure success? How would you see this taking place after the people leave the program? We realized it was board service. It was board service. We were able to clarify that. And now we make it a very important aspect of the program. We definitely highlight it. So a way that we can measure whether we're being successful or not. COVID-19 certainly presented a tremendous opportunity for us. I mean, a tremendous challenge that then turned into an opportunity.
Right.
Because early on, when the pandemic happened, as many organizations, we faced the prospect of having to shut down. Our program was an in-person experience. And many people had asked us, are you ever going to offer this online? Would you be doing TLI online? People from other parts of the country. And we felt, no. What we do, it wouldn't work. Perhaps we felt we were above the virtual platform. And that was a mistake. Because when we were taken out of our comfort zone and forced to pivot to online, we realized that many of the participants actually liked the fact that they didn't have to make a commute to come to the sessions. Many of our participants are millennials. So they're very comfortable with this technology. It was us who were uncomfortable with the coordinators of the program. So now that we've discovered that we can do what we've been doing for the past few years very successfully online, we're just seizing the opportunity. And this is why we're launching the national cohort.
Yeah, but you're a natural for this in the sense that you have a very dynamic and attractive personality online. So it would make perfect sense for you to take on this technology and use it. And you're right about millennials. They love this stuff, so it's people my age that have a problem with it. But
I think you're doing just fine, Fran.
uh, look, do you model yourself, or give me some examples of people that you've learned from in terms of a strength? I want that strength. How do I get that? Or there's a person that I want to model myself on. Have you ever thought like that in terms of the development of your own leadership skills?
Personally, you mean, right?
Yeah.
Well, probably after our Lord,
Mm-hmm.
probably one of my biggest role models is Saint Jose Maria Escrivá.
Mm-hmm.
And he wasn't a lay person, but what he laid down,
he had a love for lay people.
Yes, he did, right? he understood lay people and professionals.
Well. Yeah.
He understood professionals very well. So this concept of turning anything that you're doing into a prayer, anything that you're doing into an opportunity to sanctify yourself. To me, when I learned it several years ago, it just changed my life. It transformed my life entirely, personally. And you talk about this hierarchy of priorities that I have in my life. I understand very well what my priorities are and how to fulfill each role. And at every role, I failed all the time, but I have my objectives very clear so that I can get up, dust myself up, and continue trying. So at work, at home, whatever we do can be an opportunity to become holy, to give glory to God, and to make the world a little bit better, sanctify the world by sanctifying ourselves. And at the heart of our program, that's what we are teaching our participants. And that's actually the title of our last session when we close the program, Holiness in Ordinary Life. That's how we bring it all together. Because at the end of the day, if we're fomenting that Catholic professionals go on and engage civil society as leaders, we're doing it so that we can help them find a way to sanctify themselves and to sanctify the world around them.
Yeah, one of the virtues that ranks very high in a leader in almost every poll over the last 50 years is the virtue of honesty, the ability to say the truth even when the truth isn't welcome. Because people respond very well to that. I mean, people may not want to hear it, but they do appreciate a leader who tells the truth all the time. If you were to identify the qualities in a Catholic leader, the 3 or 4 virtues that you most want to develop in a leader, what would those be?
Mm-hmm. Well, this is easy because someone else has done the homework for me. Mm-hmm. Through the program, we partnered with the Virtuous Leadership Institute that you may be familiar with, mm-hmm. the work of Alexander Havard. Mm-hmm. And it is actually them who do the retreat for us. They do a retreat. And through their content, which is phenomenal and only draws from the wisdom of the church. I mean, all of these new discoveries are nothing more than the rediscovery of our faith. But it's wonderful content. And what they identify is that by building on the 4 cardinal virtues, each person can become a person of integrity. But if you want to be a leader, there are 2 specific virtues that you need. And these are they call the virtues of the heart. And these are magnanimity and humility. Mm-hmm. So at TLI, we have adopted that concept and that definition of a leader being somebody who brings about the greatness, somebody who brings about greatness by drawing the greatness in others.
Yes.
And the 2 virtues that they need to grow on or master are humility and magnanimity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, humility is the beginning of sanity. It helps you see past yourself. And I really resonate with your comment about magnanimity. Most people don't understand that it's not about them, it's about other people. And if you really want to influence people, if you want to exercise influence, if you want real power in the best sense, you do it through other people, not through yourself. You know, people respond when they feel like they're paid attention to and concerned, and that you as a leader are interested in their development, which is another factor that I think makes Tepeyac such an interesting project to get going. I mean, and in many ways you embody that, because I mean, it's something that people want to be attracted to a leader, but then they also want something from the leader, and they want to know that the leader is as much about himself or herself as about them as about himself or herself. And again, your organization certainly seems to have that. The how do you see the development of the church? I mean, I'm talking very generally now, but Tepeyac fits into a Catholic environment that's changing very rapidly and not necessarily for the better. I mean, where do you see Tepeyac being in 10 years, and where do you see the church in the United States being in 10 years?
Well, you know, a lot of people, you hear the blogs, you read the articles, you consume the good Catholic media, and a lot of people talk about the demise of Western civilization, the end of Christendom, and you know, and I believe we are already standing in the crumbles.
Mm-hmm.
We are already standing in the ruins, or on the ruins of Western civilization. We are standing on it. So it's time to rebuild.
Mm-hmm.
In my mind, it's time to rebuild.
Mm-hmm.
We need to rebuild the church in and outside. We need to regain all of these spaces that we have lost for Christ. And this is what our program is about. I'll give you one clear example: public education. We want to, through our program, we want to foment civic leadership in all areas of life. I'm going to give you an example of public education. We know very well, I'm sure you're a familiar friend, with the horrendous things that are being taught in public education. And the question that we pose to the participants is, where are those Catholics at those school boards? Mm-hmm. Where were those Catholics at those school boards when the decisions were being made to adopt those curriculums? We need more Catholics at those school boards. We need more Catholics in the medical field and in the scientific field so that we can make the right bioethical decisions. So, you know, in politics, we certainly can have an impact there. We need real Catholics in politics.
Yeah, you know, one of the things, something you just said really struck me, that acknowledging reality as it is not necessarily a bad thing. It gives you the clarity of thought to begin the task of rebuilding.
Freedom.
There's a tremendous temptation to fight a rear guard action, and that just gets nowhere except slows the whole process down. What's most appealing about your organization and organizations like it is the idea that we're just not going to get dragged down by that. We're going to just start anew in a spirit of hope and build from there, you know? So that leads to my next question, or next two questions. Is what gives you hope in the current environment? That's the first question. What makes you hope and motivates you in the work that you're doing?
Well, I guess I could say that hope is always something you have to work, you have to pray for, and it's not easy to sustain. So I am grateful to God that He keeps sustaining my hope through the many little miracles that I have seen along the way as we have begun this path. And I'm so grateful to Him and the intercession of Our Lady of Guadalupe, because we keep seeing these things. And I can tell you so many, I have a long list of little stories, things that happen that have continued to encourage us, such as, for example, at one session where we have invited an expert, a panelist, to come into the program to give a presentation, not knowing anything or expecting anything from them. At the completion of the session, this person called me up and said, "I love what you're doing. I want to write a check to your organization. I want you to be successful." And it came at a time when we really needed the help. We're a young Catholic organization. We certainly need funds. And the other day we were completing a form for our grant request. And I was pulling out the funding documents for our organization. And just out of curiosity, I really didn't know. I wanted to see what was the date that the state of Arizona had gave us their stamp to exist as an organization. And it was December 12th, the date of Our Lady of Guadalupe. I just paused for a second, and I thought, gosh, Our Lady has been with us from the beginning.
Yeah, that's my next question. You partially answered it, which was where does Our Lady of Guadalupe fit in terms of inspiring the organization? Of course, Our Lady of Guadalupe is very important to the Napa Institute as well.
Yes.
And to the whole Southwest, really the whole country. So why is Our Lady of Guadalupe so important? And one other observation about you that I find interesting, Chris, is that you talk about all the little miracles in your life. You had to have your eyes open to see them. And it seems to me that the Leadership Institute helps people open their eyes to see the goodness around them instead of just, griping all the time about the bad things that are happening and how it's all going to hell in a handbasket. So again, why Our Lady of Guadalupe?
Well, from the beginning, we felt that she was the best intercessor we could ever have. And when we thought about naming the program, we were inspired by the story of St. Juan Diego.
Mm-hmm.
And we named it Tepeyac, Leadership Initiative, because Tepeyac is the name of the hill where Our Lady of Guadalupe appeared to St. Juan Diego. It's a catchy name. A lot of people are asking, what does that mean? And I'm surprised. I'm often surprised that people don't know what the name Tepeyac comes from. And I tell them, well, you're probably familiar with Mount Carmel, right? A lot of people know Mount Carmel. That's where a mountain where Our Lady appeared, right? So Our Lady must like mountains, because in Mexico City, she chose a small hill named Tepeyac to appear to St. Juan Diego. And we're very inspired to the story. St. Juan Diego, a layperson who was an instrument of God and Our Lady for the conversion of so many people in the Americas. So we tell in the program, we tell the participants that just like St. Juan Diego received his mission of leadership from Our Lady at Tepeyac Hill, we hope that they will find their mission as well through TLI. And we ask Our Lady and St. Juan Diego, praying at the beginning and at the end of every session, to intercede for this.
Chris, this has been a wonderful conversation. I wish you well, and God bless you. You're really doing great work. One final question. How do people get in touch with you? Where do they contact you?
So there are several ways. I am very Googleable. So if they just Google my name, they'll find it. I think my cell phone is probably there too. But tliprogram.org is our website. tliprogram.org is our website. And it will lead them to me directly. And I am always happy to meet with them and answer any questions they might have about the program. Thank you for the opportunity, Frank.
Oh, really? It's been a delight, really, Chris. And God bless you. Good luck, okay?
Thanks
very much.